One of my favorite racing games during the 16-bit era was Road Rash. I enjoyed everything about that series, especially the combat and setting. It was rather unique at the time, and it spawned 3 entries on the Sega Genesis alone. When we shifted over to the 32-bit era, things started off incredibly well. Road Rash for the 3DO was phenomenal, and easily one of the best games for that platform. The Saturn and PlayStation saw ports a bit later, but the series received a major shakeup afterwards. We didn't see another one until 1998, when Road Rash 3D dropped exclusively for the PlayStation. It looked radically different from the 3DO game before it, and the gameplay was entirely new as well. The following year, in September of 1999, the Nintendo 64 got some combat racing love of its own with the release of Road Rash 64, developed by the California-based Pacific Coast Power and Light, a subsidiary of THQ. Now that THQ had the license, they went in their own direction with the Road Rash brand that did not mimic any version before it. The question is, was the new look and feel of this Road Rash any good? And did it retain the fun this series was so widely known for? In this episode, we are going to take a look at it and see what it was all about. For those of you that don't know, Road Rash is a world of illegal street racing using motorcycles with no rules other than being first wins. That means any means necessary, including the use of weapons. That list of available weapons includes the likes of mace, spiked clubs, tasers, sledgehammers, and a few damage multipliers you can add to really destroy the competition. You are not limited to just weapons, as you can also punch, kick, elbow, and even taunt your foes. Pay close attention to the top left corner of the screen. It's here you'll find your life bar and the damage meter of your ride. The top is your life, lose it, and off your bike you'll go, crashing out and losing position. The bottom bar is the bike. When that hits 0, the bike is done and your race is over. You'll incur costly repairs if that happens. Your gameplay options are fairly robust in this entry. The Thrash mode returns as the arcade-style option for newcomers that just want to jump in and get started. You can choose your difficulty and the number of starting bikers, cops, pedestrians, and traffic. There's even a cop mode that allows you to be the fuzz and hunt down the law-breaking degenerates. The multiplayer mode supports up to 4 players and offers 5 different options to choose from. You can enjoy a simple Thrash mode with your buddies. You can race in a special arena that allows 1, 3, and 7 laps. Deathmatch is a tug of war where you get a point for causing a wreck and lose a point for taking one. Tag is a race where you are it, and everyone is trying to wreck you. The only way out is for the it rider to crash someone and pass along the it. Pedestrian hunt is the most diabolical option. Here you are hunting down hapless pedestrians everywhere, and the rider with the highest head count wins the race. Again, multiplayer supports up to 4 players in all its modes. Finally, there is Big Game Mode, the meat and potatoes of Road Rash 64. This is where you race for money, qualify for tracks, upgrade your bike, have the option to join a gang, and ultimately become the champion. Choosing a gang is important because it makes you both a target and gives you allies at crucial times during the race. Remain independent and everyone is after you, including the cops. Get busted without enough money to pay the fine, and it's game over. The map is over 200 miles of interconnected raceways. These tracks have an exploration element to them and can lead to shortcuts and power-ups, so be sure to look around. As with other games in the series, the races get longer as you move up in level. You must land in the top 3 in order to qualify for that race. The available bikes range in acceleration, handling, and durability, each going up in cost with performance. Road Rash 64 supports the Rumble Pack, the Memory Pack, and the Expansion Pack. Should you have the Expansion Pack, you get some extra display options, including high resolution and widescreen mode. Road Rash 64 takes the F-Zero X route of performance over detail when it comes to visuals. The fog is close, the trackside detail minimal, and the polygon count's low. Compared to the other Road Rash 32-bit titles, it lacks detail and honestly appears quite ugly. The different routes are so nondescript in their look that nearly all of them appear the same. But Road Rash 64 is doing something no other Road Rash has ever attempted: 4-player simultaneous support. There's no question the cartridge format hamstrung the visuals here in a number of ways, but this game's multiplayer modes hold up well considering the era and the other games available on the Nintendo 64. Support for the RAM expansion pack also gives you a high-resolution, widescreen, and letterbox support, all of which enhance the experience. How you view this game's graphics is likely going to depend on your overall opinion of the Nintendo 64 visual experience. It has the trademark fog, blur, and simplistic models, so if you always hated the look of games for this platform, Road Rash 64 will not change your mind. You're gonna come away from this still hating it. But if you go in with the understanding that the visuals support 4 players in a number of different multiplayer modes, well, it's easy to forgive its plain Jane presentation. I still would have enjoyed better texture detail and improved polygon models, but there are a lot of worse looking and performing games for this machine that don't have this level of multiplayer appeal. It's not impressive visually, but at least it runs well. The soundtrack features a number of real-life bands such as Sugar Ray, The Mermen, and a few others. Some of it is fun, some of it is just tolerable, but thanks to the sound options you can completely tune it out or pump it way up. The sound effects are fair with decent sounding bikes and the typical chaos you expect in a title like this. Unfortunately, everything here is licensed and protected content, so I will just play you another gameplay segment. I'm not going to cover up my initial disdain for this title, and it's important you understand why I felt that way. Road Rash 64 looks and feels so different from the games before it that my first play session ended in utter disgust. This was so much worse than I had wanted and expected that I immediately returned the game for a refund. And that was the end of my story with Road Rash 64 for years. I would absolutely trash it whenever it came up with friends, and honestly, most of my inner circle agreed with me. This was no Road Rash 3DO, and it was rejected in the most hostile of ways. Some time would pass before I sat down and played it again with my family, more as a joke to show them a really bad game. The joke was on me, however, because we kept playing it, and playing it. I began to adjust to the feel of the gameplay, the handling, the combat. Soon the visuals didn't matter at all because we were having so much fun. It was finally the multiplayer that had done it and exposed me to the real fun factor of Road Rash 64. That led me into the single player option, and then that hooked me as well. It became clear to me that this game refocused a lot of the gameplay on combat by keeping the early tracks short, the racers close, in packs, and expanding the weapon options. Once you adjust and get a taste for that combat intensity, you really start to appreciate what Road Rash 64 offers. Even if you enjoy the racing aspect more, just jump into the thrash mode and set the options accordingly. Lower the difficulty and competition count, and combat becomes much less a focus. You can have it both ways. Of course, this is still likely to be met with various opinions. The visuals will be divisive, the soundtrack is entirely up to taste, and those looking for the gameplay of past titles will immediately be turned off. Look no further than the magazines of the day to see how opinions varied wildly. In Electronic Gaming Monthly, it was absolutely throttled with a chain by their review crew. None of them found the appeal, and it showed in the abysmal scores. This stood in direct contrast to the review Game Informer dropped on it. They praised the multiplayer and the overtop combat. That score was roughly double the Electronic Gaming Monthly rating. I don't think there's a whole lot of in between with this one. You either like it or you don't. If I'm sending mixed signals on Road Rash 64 here, well, let's clear that up with a full recommendation. The multiplayer is great fun and the gameplay feels like no other game in the series. But along with those distinctions come the expectations you may have for what a Road Rash should look and play like. If you are still unsure of this game's potential, move on over to the PlayStation games that showed up. They are different beasts entirely and may be far better suited to your needs. Frankly, you should play them all because the series went in very different directions as it aged. Not just in gameplay and visuals, but in tone, art, and atmosphere. Hell, by the time you get to Jailbreak, it's utterly unrecognizable from the game that appeared on the Genesis and 3DO. For the longest time, that rubbed me the wrong way, and it might still be hitting some of you the same way. Unfortunately, Road Rash ended its run on home consoles in 2000, and has been dormant ever since. Every so often, some developer will say something to get your hopes up that maybe we'll see another one. But after 25 years, it appears this once great line of combat racing games is well and truly dead. That leaves us with little more than nostalgia and the memories that power it. If you're a fan, give Road Rash 64 a try. There's a lot more here than I initially gave it credit for. I'm Sega X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.